throw it out. I had to scream and shout. Before I turn to dust, I've got to throw it out. Before I turn to dust.
Hello, Sally Libby.
Hello, Michael Small.
Are you ready for another episode of I Couldn't Throw It Out?
I'd say I have mixed feelings.
What? Where's your usual eternal enthusiasm?
Let's be honest, Mike. This project is a bust.
What?
I'm supposed to be helping you throw out all these things you've saved since you were 6.
Yes.
Yeah, and so far you've shredded one greeting card that I sent you. That's it.
So my record isn't great,
No?
but now we're trying a different approach.
Such as?
You know those boxes I have that are full of audio cassettes from the interviews I did for People magazine? Instead of selecting a highlight, I pulled out one cassette at random. And I was shocked. I had no memory of doing the interview. None. As if someone else had put it there.
Which means you can throw it out?
It means I blocked it out, and for good reason. When I listened to the tape, it all came back in a terrible, painful way.
Too much fuzz on the tape?
Oh yes, tons of fuzz, which only made worse when I tried to correct the sound levels. But the real pain came from this. It had to be the worst interview I ever did. Maybe the worst interview anyone ever did.
Isn't this what they call humble bragging? Dear me, I have a box full of tapes of all the celebrities I interviewed, but I did such a terrible job.
Busted. That's me, Mr. Humblebrag. So I guess I've lost you already.
Oh no, if it's your worst interview ever, then I'm interested. Tell me more.
Okay, it was 1983. My journalistic inexperience consisted of 1 year as a fact checker and 2 years as a reporter at People magazine. Nonetheless, the editors took a gamble and asked for my help with the year-end double issue. That's the one with the 25 most intriguing people of the year?
Oh yes, I've read those. Of course, it was only in the doctor's office.
I was assigned an interview with someone who had already been featured in a big article that year in People. All I had to do was get a quote or two so we could write a few more paragraphs about her.
And this person was?
The star of one of the most popular movies of 1983. It was called Flashdance.
Jennifer Beals!
Yes! These days people know her for playing Betty Porter in The L Word. Have you seen it?
I think the L train left the station without me.
It's not too late. There are reruns all over the streaming services. Anyway, Jennifer also starred in movies like Devil in a Blue Dress, The Last Days of Disco, Roger Dodger. Seen any of those?
Missed those trains too, but you have to admit, Flashdance was a bigger deal than any of them.
Okay, I'm just wondering, when was the last time you watched Flashdance?
The 80s?
Well, listening to my terrible interview made me curious. So Cindy and I just watched it again.
Don't tell me it lost some of its luster.
Actually, I highly recommend it to everyone.
Really?
Yes, because of the surprise factor.
What?
You may remember it as a love story, but wearing today's glasses, it looks kind of like a strange mix of fantasy and soft porn.
Oh, come on. How soft?
Do you remember what it's about?
Kinda, sorta. She plays a construction worker.
A welder.
But she's gotta dance!
You missed an important nuance. This female welder, named Alex, lives in a town with 2 bars. In each bar, women like to perform extremely titillating dances. Now, one bar is the good bar because the dancers wear a little bit of clothing. The other bar is the bad bar because the dancers wear only their flesh. Of course, the boss who owns the welding plant...
Was he played by that guy, Michael Nouri?
Good call, yes. So he goes primarily to the good bar, where he watches Alex dance and he falls madly in love.
Of course he does.
The problem is, Alex doesn't want to date the boss. And she doesn't even want to dance at a bar. She wants to dance, get this, at the local conservatory.
Of course she does.
So she has only one choice. She must wow the super conservative admissions officers with her flash dancing.
You just gave away the whole plot.
Well, we all know the plot of the Bible. Does that stop people from reading it?
One thing you forgot to remind me about. What exactly is flash dancing?
Oh, that's a toughie.
Does it involve flashing?
Well, maybe in a way, it's very 80s. The haircuts and the clothes are kind of angular. And basically, it's beautiful women performing jerky athletic moves, looking kind of violent and scary.
Who could resist?
Yeah, they toss themselves around to songs like Maniac.
She's a maniac, maniac for your love.
Yeah, they also dance to Joe and Jet's I Love Rock and Roll. And then there are other songs that time has forgotten.
Oh, don't forget the truly excellent theme song.
You remember who sang it, right?
Give me a minute. It's right on the tip of my tongue.
She also sang Fame.
Oh, Irene Cara.
Yes. She actually co-wrote the song with a couple of music producers, Giorgio Moroder and Keith Forsey.
What a feeling.
Okay, everyone knows those words, and we all know you know them. But what are the next words?
Take your passion and make it happen.
No. That comes later. What's in the middle?
What a feeling. Bees be divas. Okay, I give up.
Bees be divas? This is the next line. Beins believin'.
Beings believin'?
Yep.
I like how you left off the G at the end of both words.
That's the official spelling.
Oh.
I've been trying to figure out what the heck it all means.
Is there a chance that you're overthinking it?
Of course, that's my specialty, overthinking everything. So, try this on for flash sizing. Being's believin' means that your own being, your own existence, is enough to make you believe in yourself.
So if you want to be a great dancer, you can be a great dancer.
Yes, but actually, we'll never really know if Jennifer Beals is a great dancer.
Wait, don't tell me she didn't do the dancing in the movie.
Did I just burst your dance bubble?
But the whole movie is about dancing.
If it's any comfort, she did do the dancing, but she also had a double. So, for the most difficult dance moves, the face is in the shadows. You only see her face for the close-ups.
All my illusions have been shattered. If she didn't do those moves, who did?
It was a French actress named Marine Jahan, and she got no credit when the movie was released.
I feel betrayed.
Imagine how Marine felt. But after meeting Jennifer Beals, I promise you, she's a very honest person. So when people asked about her dancing, she told the truth. I think it kind of caused a big hoopla at the time. I get the sense that the producers weren't exactly thrilled when she spilled the beans.
What did she say when you asked her about it?
Do you actually think I'd ask such an interesting question?
I'm sorry, Mike. I was overestimating your skills. I guess I overestimated hers, too.
Now, don't be unfair. In My Fair Lady, Marnie Nixon did the singing. Do we say Audrey Hepburn was a loser? I don't think so.
We never speak ill of Audrey Hepburn.
Right, because she did a great job. And Jennifer Beals did a great job in her movie. She was extremely appealing. Really appealing. Remember the scene where she takes her bra off underneath her sweatshirt and then pulls it out her sleeve?
I do that all the time. Only now it's a little lower.
Unfortunately, Jennifer was getting tired of discussing that movie and that move. She had already done a big interview with people, and apparently she'd had enough. We had to twist her arm to talk with us again.
How could she not want to be one of the year's most intriguing people?
She was busy with other things, such as being a freshman at Yale.
That's impressive.
So, this interview is a special challenge that required a special technique. Here's my plan. She was into academics, not crass celebrity journalism. So I'd win her over by showing that I was an extremely academic person with a very fine college degree of my own.
But the interview was about her, not about you.
Actually, I think it was really about my parents' attitude toward money.
What? Okay, explain that.
Well, my parents taught me to avoid debt. So, when I needed career training, I would never consider taking out loans to attend journalism school. So instead, I attended the Michael Small School of Journalism.
Were you the faculty or the student body?
I was both. And at the Michael Small School of Journalism, we, meaning I, had our rules, such as it's very rude to conduct an entire interview without sharing a thing or two about yourself. The thinking was you had to give a little to get a little.
I pity all the poor celebrities who had that inflicted on them.
Well, yep, they certainly did suffer.
Did Jennifer Beals put up with it?
Well, here's the scene. We're in a Manhattan hotel room. She's 19, and I'm an older gentleman of 26.
But we know who was more mature.
No question, she was. But if you listen carefully, you can hear us eating because we've ordered room service on my expense account.
Bribery.
Yes, and then I started by revealing an exciting piece of equipment.
Michael!
It was my new stereo Walkman. Jennifer was suitably impressed by it. She had never seen such a fancy one.
Well, for the kids today, could we describe the Walkman as a precursor to the iPhone?
Yeah, maybe without the phone, without the email, without the internet.
Yeah. Actually, what did it have?
It was pretty good at recording with a very loud hum.
Oh, that ancient technology.
I didn't totally trust it, ever. So I put it on the bed. I kept my eyes on it as I kneeled beside the bed and took notes. One of the first things I noted, Jennifer had a terrible cough.
Are you sure she didn't have a stand-in to cough for her?
Hey, it was real. In fact, it was so upsetting to hear it again and again that I cut the coughing out of most of the clips that I'm going to share with you. But then I got worried that you'd accuse me of doctoring it up.
She was sick. You had to doctor it up.
Okay. That was pun number 1. You've got 2 left in this episode.
Oh.
Anyway, in order to preserve the integrity of the Michael Small School of Journalism, I must reveal all. I will share with you now everything that I cut.
They should have written new lyrics for her. What a fever.
That might qualify as pun number 2. I'm counting, okay? But anyway, I was sure she'd feel better, or at least more relaxed, if I could just convey that she was with a fellow traveler who believed in the power of academics. So I started by asking her about every single class she was taking in great detail for 15 minutes.
I bet that information would go over big with the people readers in the checkout lane.
Of course, there was no way we'd print any of it, but it was fertile ground because it let me show my own academic prowess. If she only knew that I had attended a similar academic institution, then she might open up to me about dancing in bars and wearing ripped sweatshirts.
You were so strange back then.
Only back then? The first thing I found out is that she was taking 6 classes. Now, I don't know if you remember college.
Barely.
Let's just say that others of us struggled with 4 classes a semester, not 6. And none of her classes were easy. She was taking the history of art through the Renaissance, beginning Italian because she was already solid in French, plus a seminar on American writers in Paris from 1910 to 1940. This class was meant only for seniors, and she was accepted into it as a freshman. She was also in a short story writing class, a class about popular culture and mass media. Now you have to remember, I'm interviewing the welder dancer from Flashdance, and here's a sample of our conversation.
I'm interested in organizational behavior and how people behave in groups and what.
Oh, that's what all the movie stars say.
In your dreams.
I only heard one sentence, and she sure sounds smart.
Notice how I match her subdued tone, sounding kind of academic. I'm a quiet, humble bragger for this particular event, but listen to how I go in for the win.
Then I'm taking power in social institutions, which is an organizational behavior class, which is sort of sociology, psychology.
Max Weber.
Sal, tell us what you know about Max Weber.
Wasn't he a flash dancer?
No. He's a German sociologist who died in 1920. When I was a freshman, I took a class where his books were assigned. So I go into the bookstore and ask for Max Weber. The clerk gives me this withering look and says, "That's Weber."
Oh, those bookstore clerks. He probably took the class a year earlier.
I had no idea if Max Weber was relevant to Jennifer's class. I was just trying to sound smart. The funny thing is, I did a search this morning for Max Weber and power because I was just curious. Like, was it relevant? And he actually did write about power and authority.
You mean you were appropriate? That ruins your whole story.
What ruined it is that Jennifer showed no sign of being impressed. She moved on as if this was a perfectly normal conversation with People magazine.
We don't read his book. She tells us about. But we read more modern type people like Jean Baker Miller.
May I digress for a minute?
Could I stop you?
Not really. At the time, I looked at Jennifer like, oh, of course, Jean Baker Miller. But I didn't have the slightest clue who that was. So I looked her up today, too. And turns out she was a sociologist about our parents' age, and she had a son, Jonathan Miller. Now that sounded familiar, so I looked him up, too. Turns out that he ran AOL after they bought Time Inc. So when I was working at Entertainment Weekly, he was ostensibly my boss.
6 degrees of Jennifer Beals.
That's the cool thing about going back to these tapes. They make these crazy connections that we'd never in a million years remember. At 26, I'm talking with a movie star about the mom of my future boss.
Well, I guess it's more productive than your usual habit of asking celebrities about other celebrities.
Oh, maybe I did a little bit of that too.
Who did you ask her about?
There was another Yale-educated actress.
Jodie Foster?
Yep.
Now that's more interesting than sociology. Did they know each other?
Well, a little.
Now the questions will make you want to come with. But do you know Jodie Foster?
Well,
Are you friends?
are you fans?
Well, that's doing my job.
Did you hear that? She teased me. My academic approach was making us friends. And here's where it led.
I met her last term I was there. Briefly, I drove her into New York. She and I have a mutual friend. And
Charles Dickens.
no.
Notice what I did there? She said a mutual friend, and I said Charles Dickens, because one of his novels was called Our Mutual Friend.
Oh, so she'd have the illusion that you were literary from your literary allusion.
Uh-huh.
Geez, could you just get on with it?
But that's all I got about Jodie.
Very disappointing. You get bad marks, Mr. Academic. I hope you asked her about someone else.
There was another actress at an Ivy League school.
Brooke Shields.
Bingo.
I wonder if they ever compared notes to find out how each of them were treated.
You read my 26-year-old mind.
I hope this one brings up your grade point average.
It will. Brooke is a year or so younger than Jennifer Beals, but based on what you're about to hear, Brooke must have gone to college early.
Are you friends with Brooke Shields?
I've talked to her a few times.
But she's not a real buddy.
No. But with a few times, the one real conversation that we had, the guy called her because it was in the beginning of school, and everything was going really well for me. And I thought of her at Princeton, and I saw all these articles coming out everywhere. Brooke Shields at Princeton. Brooke Shields at Princeton. Brooke Shields at Princeton. And I thought, my God, what would it be like to have that going on when, you were at school? And so I wanted to call her, and I wanted to send her This Side of Paradise. I thought it was necessary reading before you went to Princeton. I didn't know where to send the book. And so I called Scavullo, and he gave me her home phone number, and I called her.
You know who Scavullo is, right?
The photographer.
Francesco Scavullo. He photographed every celebrity. Those sexy photos of Brooke as a young girl. That famous photo of Barbara Streisand and Chris Christopherson from A Star is Born. The nude centerfold of Burt Reynolds in Cosmopolitan.
Oh, I remember that.
I'm sure you do. Unfortunately, Scavullo died about 18 years ago, so if you need any phone numbers, you can't call him.
I'll just call Jennifer Beals.
Well, here's what she might tell you.
And I called her, and her mother answered, and I talked to her mom for a while, who was really sweet. And I asked her, was there someplace I could send this letter? And she said, well, Brooke is here. She was at home. And so we talked for like half an hour or so, just about school and about paparazzi. And she's so polite, that they don't ever go away because
Yeah.
it's just very sweet.
Of course, then I had to tell her that I had once danced with Brooke at a party.
Was Jennifer impressed?
Showed no reaction at all. As I remember, neither did Brooke. She was so much taller that I don't think she even noticed I was dancing with her.
More humble bragging.
Sorry.
What is it about you and dancing with celebrities? You danced with Joni Mitchell, with Brooke Shields.
And with Diana Ross at Studio 54.
Who didn't you dance with?
Well, Jennifer Beals, the flash dancer.
Life's little ironies.
We just kept dancing around the fact that I was as highly educated as she was. And she reminded me that Brooke was too.
And she's very bright. It really annoyed me. Like, apparently some alumnus from Princeton wrote something and I just wonder what deserving Princetonian wasn't allowed in because she was let in, which is just baloney. I mean, I don't know, really upsets me a lot.
Would it annoy you if people thought of you that you were just, the pretty girl from Flashdance?
Yeah, that would annoy me.
Do you think that is that something you'd want to make people know? I'm not just looks, I've got brains.
Well, I'm not going to go out of my way to do it because I'm not that worried about it. Because the people I care about know that I got into Yale before I did any movie. And in a way, I'm really thankful for that because it says to me that I got in because of me, not because of any affirmation from Hollywood or anything.
Now, that's interesting. I just assumed that Yale took her so they could have one more star on their roster.
Nope. They didn't know about her stardom. They just wanted one more brainiac on their roster. By the way, guess what was mixed in with all the studying? Something that resembled dancing.
No.
Yes, listen to this.
I have a 9:30 class, and sometimes before class I'll jump around to Jane Fonda's voice.
Do you have the videotape?
No.
The record?
That would be funny. I'd probably laugh too much. No, I have the tape.
Is that really pretty regular, or
No,
just every once in a while?
every once in a while.
Yeah.
Another blast from the past. Those Jane Fonda workout tapes.
That tape, the one that made Jennifer jump, was the best-selling VHS videotape of all time.
Wow. VHS. That's a memory. Those big clunky tapes before DVDs.
Yep. Jane actually made 22 of them and sold 17 million copies.
Wow.
Yeah, the first one was in 1983, and now she's 84 years old.
No. Jane Fonda?
Yeah.
Barbarella? How did this happen?
She isn't showing it. She's still acting in that Netflix show, Grace and Frankie.
Okay, I admit it. There is a lot of trivia hidden in your cassette tapes. But did you ever ask Jennifer anything about the movie?
Oh, yes. I asked her some of the obligatory questions.
Just for some relief. Let me hear a little of that.
Have things changed at all for you since the movie in terms of
Sex? No.
Well, yes. No.
She was so much better at this than I was. She took my boring question and gave me the perfect lead-in to ask her about sex.
And what did you find out?
Oh, I didn't pick up on it. That was far too interesting.
Oh, Michael.
Yep. I steered her back to something boring.
Well, for instance, have you gone out and bought yourself a new car or bought new clothes or is anything? I mean,
Have I spent a great deal of money on something?
Yeah. You splurged on anything or whatever?
And the thing I splurged on, I bought my boyfriend a birthday present, and I bought him a Bronze Age sword, short sword, in Copenhagen, and that was my big splurge.
Is there a reason behind that?
To buy him
a Bronze Age sword?
Well, we were in Copenhagen, and he looked at it and really liked it, and he goes, "No, that's too expensive. We can't buy that." And I said, "You're absolutely right. We can't afford that." And I had I went out and bought it later and gave it to him later.
That's nice.
There is one very interesting detail hidden in there. Jennifer told me that her boyfriend was obsessed with filmmaking. He started a group at Yale called University Pictures, and they made short 5-minute movies. Jennifer acted in some. She also did costumes, makeup, producing. Then, after college, her boyfriend went to Hollywood, and he became a movie producer. His name is Bob Simmons. He produced all those Adam Sandler movies, Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, The Wedding Singer.
Whew.
Yep. Wikipedia says that his films grossed more than $6 billion worldwide.
He should pay her back for that sword.
If you look back at the first People article about Jennifer, there's a picture of the two of them, a couple of cute kids, and you think, wow, she's going to go on and make movies and TV shows, and he's going to produce movies that bring in $6 billion.
So once again, I ask, did you ever get beyond swordplay to ask something meaningful about her life?
I tried to go in that direction, but, well, here's what happened.
What about other than superficial stuff? Has like I know you're going to say.
I thought that's all we're supposed to talk about.
No, I mean other than like buying stuff, but has the movie no, I don't mean this.
Yep, she was making fun of me.
In a well-deserved way.
But I did see this as an opportunity. When you think superficial, what do you think? I'll tell you what you think. You think Hollywood. So, as a fellow intellectual who happened to work at People magazine, I'd show her that I was well aware of the shortcomings of the place that made her famous.
I mean, a problem a lot of people have is when you get out of that real academic environment, are you going to be able to put up with Hollywood? Or you think you would probably stay in New York? Or, I don't know. I mean, what was he?
Well, there are intellectuals in Hollywood.
Yeah, I know.
Contrary to popular belief. I mean, I'm assuming that you're defining Hollywood as pretty superficial and skidding along the ice there. I mean, I could find that group of people at Yale, too. So it comes down to who you hang out with.
Mm-hmm.
And you can pick and choose who you hang out with. And so you don't have to be bothered with the cocaine parties or whatever.
Yeah, really.
Well, now you know. If you ever go to Hollywood, you do not have to bother with the cocaine parties.
That's a relief.
It was a bit of a turning point. I was pretty sure that I had established my cred, and she was ready to open up. So I was ready to broach the subject that I needed for the article. How did she feel about all the attention from her movie? Here's what she said.
When it was first out, people would look and point and stuff like that. But now it's much more quiet, and I can walk around and I can go to movies and.
I know him.
Well, every once in a while somebody will come up, or a cabbie will blow his horn and go, "Hey, Flashdance, how's it going?" And then that's really funny. You know, and that's just very sweet, but nothing harmful at all.
Don't you have to put up a little bit of a shield to keep?
Anybody, anywhere has to put up a little bit of a shield.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that sounds really weird.
Wow.
No, that's not what I mean. But what I mean by that is that people are continually having social warfare. You know, determining who has the power, who doesn't have the power. You know, who will be the dominant in what situation, who will be the subordinate in what situation, and those sort of games go on all the time, be it in language or body language or anything. And everybody plays that game. It's just with people who get their name in print a little bit more often, people assume that they have to be more protective, when in fact everybody is a little protective of themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't tell me your deepest, darkest secret.
Probably not.
So it's sort of the same.
If you came up to me on the street and asked me for my autograph, I'd probably give it to you.
And I'd probably give it to you.
Mm-hmm.
If you came up to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would give it to you. There's no reason for me not
Yeah.
to.
Whew, I was afraid this might be all about her. You managed to get it back to you.
Yes, and this is where things get really cringe-worthy. Here's how I pushed forward with that topic, while at the same time reminding her of my academic pedigree.
I don't want to belabor this, but I mean, I'm probably a little obsessed with it myself. But I went to college with Caroline Kennedy, and I had a...
Did you hear that, Sal? Just planting that seed. I mean, where would Caroline Kennedy have gone to college?
Okay, I don't think you were trying to get her trust. You were trying to one-up her. You wanted the glory of being the Ivy League movie star who was getting interviewed.
It's true. I had lost my way somewhere during this interview. And at this point, it was clear that Jennifer was ready to talk, but I couldn't let go of my original tactic of showing her who I was. So I dug myself deeper.
And I had a weird reaction to that whole thing in that she was rooming with a friend of mine, and I like basically did everything I could to avoid her because I couldn't deal with her fame. And like at the same time, see like people wanting her to be in clubs and people wanting to induct her and wanting her to show up for stuff and wanting her. I mean, have you found that at all? Like, I would think it would be hard to deal with.
That's so embarrassing.
The worst thing about it, everything I said was baloney. I mean, if Caroline Kennedy had come up to me and said, I want to be your friend, would I have said no? I was dying for her to notice me. We took some classes together and Jackie O sat in a few times.
Oh.
I didn't see anything else. I didn't hear anything in those classes. All I saw was them.
That's understandable. One night after visiting you, I was walking behind Caroline in Harvard Yard, and I was intrigued.
Yeah, at least I made it 4 years without doing what my father told me to do. He wanted me to tell Caroline about our connection.
What connection?
You mean I never told you?
No.
In 1962, when I was a very little 5-year-old, Jack Kennedy must have come to New Hampshire for some campaigning. But there were very few Democrats there, just my parents and a family called the Dumphys. They owned a lot of restaurants, Dumphys Tavern. So the Dumphys and John Kennedy came to our house. He picked me up on his shoulders and I rode around on his shoulders.
I wish I had known that earlier.
Because you would have been my friend for more than 50 years?
I would have been a much better friend.
Well, anyway, I never spoke to Caroline Kennedy, so there was no reason to mention her to the star of Flashdance. But Jennifer actually responded. I think it's worth sharing her response with you.
Some people would like shy away from you that you would say, oh, she's famous, I don't want to deal with it.
Well, those people, I don't know who they are. Mm-hmm. So they're not even in my realm of perception.
Yeah, but other people, I would think, would just sort of want to be your friend and you'd be one.
No, in fact, it's the opposite. No one really goes out of their way to talk to me. And the friends I've made, I've made because I went out of my way to talk to them because I really like them.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I think it's great, actually.
It's very, I don't know how to explain, I don't know why it has happened the way it's happened, but it's a very comfortable situation at school, and I think that's part of the reason why I don't want the press to come up there, photographers, because, it's supporting my peers' faith in me that, that I don't think that I'm queen of the universe or something, by bringing photographers up there. I don't want people to think that, and because I certainly don't think that way.
So like when you talk in class and stuff, you're not thinking like, oh, are they reacting to me as just any other student, or are they thinking?
Not anymore. No, I don't think that at all.
That's great.
Because I do my work just like everybody else.
Yeah.
Granted, not everything I say is, are pure academic gems, but...
Oh, I know, but that's the problem. If I said something stupid, nobody would give a shit,
Well, if I say something stupid, nobody really cares either, because, so what? Because they've all been in the same problem, and they're intelligent enough people to know that not everyone is as perfect as the word would have them.
Yeah.
Jennifer Beals and I have something in common.
Which is?
Nobody goes out of their way to speak to us.
So here's where things were at. I'd done everything possible to let Jennifer Beals know she was in the presence of an intellectual equal.
Which wasn't true. She was more intellectual.
Yeah, for sure. But all my attempts failed. My alma mater had been mentioned, Caroline Kennedy had been mentioned, and yet Jennifer had not asked me where I went to college.
Couldn't you give it a rest?
I finally realized I had to do that, so I went ahead and asked the usual questions. Of course, don't be mistaken. I didn't ask interesting questions like, how did you feel about having an uncredited dancing double? Or what was your experience in Hollywood as a mixed-race actress? Or how do you feel about the depiction of women in your movie with all the men ogling them? No. But I did find time to find out, like, what time she got up in the morning, which was 8 a.m., what she ate for dinner. She cooked her own food. And what designer she wore. It was called Gerbeau. Okay, all those important things I got.
You can spare me more of it.
I had what I needed for my paragraph, but I had one more trick up my sleeve that I often use for getting what I wanted. I told her the interview was over. Now, at the Michael Small School of Journalism, we knew that as soon as we did that, the best information could be revealed.
Is there anything else you want to talk about? I don't know. That's probably it. But
I mean, I can't think of anything. But then again, I never can when somebody asks me that. I just sort of sit here and...
some people, that's when the whole interview starts. I get all done and I say, oh, do you have one last word? And they...
blah, 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 blah.
But, okay.
No, I just think that America should do something about the apartheid in South Africa.
That sounds tangential, but her response does tell you about the times.
For me, it was the perfect setup. She gave me a new lead in the direction I wanted to go, the South Africa angle. As you've heard a million times, I first noticed my wonderful wife Cindy on my first day of college, partly because I couldn't understand a word of her very heavy accent, which, it turns out, was South African. Now, I don't know if you remember, but she and her friend Neva Seidman started the South Africa Solidarity Committee. They led student protests until Harvard would pull all of its investments out of South Africa.
Wow.
And their ideas spread to colleges around the entire country in the 70s and 80s.
I didn't know that.
Most of it went right over my extremely provincial head. Endowments, investments, foreign countries. I didn't know anything about any of that. But if Cindy told me to join a march, I went. And this gave me a chance to tell Jennifer Beals about what we did at a place I called, in quotes, my school.
Hey, I was out there sleeping on the steps trying to get my school to divest, and nothing happened.
To get your school to divest?
Yeah.
What school were you?
I went to Harvard, and
She asked. She finally asked.
Victory!
So I went on and on and on, all about Cindy and South Africa. Listening now, I find it crazy that I told Jennifer Beals all about my future wife, when I had no idea that Cindy would ever be my wife. So I decided to let Cindy hear it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, she didn't love what she heard. So I was watching your face when I played that tape for you, and you did not seem particularly happy with what I was saying.
You got a lot wrong. I thought that since I was your close friend and I thought that I had spoken to you in a way that was clear, that you might have learned something.
Oh no, you can't count on me learning anything.
But clearly you had a mind of your own and you decided that everything we did was for no good reason.
Well, at the time, it didn't seem like anything had happened.
Yeah, so you expect we march around a building and then immediately there's going to be divestment.
I don't know. I mean, this was a few years later and it seemed like nothing had happened. But anyway, I'd like to make it up to you now.
Okay.
Because I want to remember that when we went to South Africa in 2014 and we took the tour of the prison where Mandela was, the guide asked you, how did you know so much about South Africa? What did you tell him when he asked?
I told him that I was involved in the divestment movement. And what did he say?
He got the entire group of about 50 tourists in a big circle, and he said thank you to the American students who pushed for divestment because it made a big difference.
Ha.
So, as a result of playing the tape for Cindy, I promised not to share with you or anyone else any of my incorrect ramblings about South Africa.
That was only for Jennifer Beals to enjoy.
Right. She had opened up the floodgates, though, so once she mentioned the H word, we were off to the races. She heard about all my college activities.
At last. It was all about you.
But the worst thing, the cringiest thing of all the cringy things that happened when all that college talk led me to ask about where she went to high school.
Can I ask the name of your high school?
Francis Parker.
Oh, I had friends who went there.
Really?
But this is a girl who is the most beautiful. I mean, she's just incredible. Her name's Joey.
What does she look like?
Just absolutely beautiful. She was the heartthrob of the entire school.
Really?
Yeah. She was the Jennifer Beals of our school.
Oh, why did you have to say that?
I have no idea.
And when she asked for more detail, all you could say is, she was so beautiful.
I tried to redeem myself a little by taking that topic a step farther. At the time, people said that Jennifer Beals was the most beautiful woman in America.
But maybe not as beautiful as Jill.
Oh, who could be as beautiful as Jill? In any case, I segued into this.
One woman said to People magazine that you would look good even if you were picking your nose.
Yeah.
And I guess we printed it. But how does that make you feel?
I think that's really funny.
Yeah, I mean, everyone thinks you're like the most beautiful woman in America, really, in a way. And what does that do to you?
I tell my brother that, and he laughs hysterically. He just laughs hysterically. He goes, "No, somebody's playing a joke on you. Come on." And it's always, I think because my family is always making jokes about certain things, that in my head I joke about it as well, because it's so untrue. I mean, I don't know. It's just so untrue. I mean, people haven't seen me the way I've seen me.
You think you're not the most beautiful?
By far, by fathoms, yes. I mean, you can walk down the street and see beautiful woman after beautiful woman after beautiful woman who is much more beautiful than I am. And certainly you can open any magazine and, at least aesthetically, that's where you would find the 10 most beautiful women or whatever, looking from the outside.
Whether what you just said is true or not, people still think that you are it.
That's funny.
I guess, I don't know. I guess you just don't take it that seriously.
No. I mean, I don't think I should, do you?
No.
No, I mean, it's not something you take seriously.
Listening now, one detail stands out that really didn't mean anything then, but the brother she mentioned, the one who laughed about her looks, she told me he was at Wesleyan and his main interest was international politics and journalism. Now, I looked up what happened to him. He did exactly what he planned to do. He went on to write for Newsweek, The Daily Beast, Foreign Policy, International Affairs. He became a photographer of crises around the world. He worked for the UN in Somalia. And just as a side note, his roommate in New York, when he moved to the city, was Jonathan Larson, who wrote Rent.
The surprising trivia never stops.
So here's my theory. Jennifer Beals has this magic quality. If you meet her, you will take your passion and make it happen. Her boyfriend, right, became a big producer. Her brother became a major journalist. And I married Cindy. We all got what we wanted.
I wish I could meet her. My passion is waiting to happen.
Your passion is this podcast, baby.
Oh, yes, I forgot for a minute. I'm not as grounded as Jennifer Beals, and I don't have a double.
That would be so difficult for that to happen. Anyway, she gave me a hint of where she got her focus. To some extent, it came from her mom. Her mom was a school teacher who also played bass violin in an orchestra and did a million other things. She gave Jennifer this advice.
She always reminds me that everything is sort of temporary, and that an education will last me a lot longer than a movie will. And not to be, she said to me once that just because you've done one movie doesn't mean you have to go on and do 10 more. You still can be a writer or a photographer or a poet or whatever. You don't need to go on. I mean, just because I've written one poem doesn't make me a poet. So it's like that kind of feeling where things are still open and that I'm not locked in anywhere, at least in my head.
Yeah, that's great.
Of course, Jennifer did stay in the movie biz.
Yes, that turned out to be one of her goals. I never actually spit out the words, "What is your plan for the future?" But because she was a much better interviewer than I was, she gave me that information anyway.
What about, I know it's too early to ask, but I'm going to ask anyway.
What about your family life in the future?
Well, yeah, exactly. Do you want to be a movie star, or you're not even sure?
Well, movie star is a pretty silly term. I mean, it's sort of,
so what? So answer silly.
I mean, I think what I'd ideally like to be is a producer, an actress, and a writer who is married with 2 children,
Okay.
I think that's what
It's hard to believe that's a 19-year-old college freshman, 1 year and 1 movie out of high school.
And she lived up to everything she said she'd do. Not only did she act, but she produced part of the L Word. She wrote and published a photo book about life in Haiti, and her photos are shown in galleries.
What about family?
She was married for 10 years to the film director Alex Rockwell. Then she got married in 1998 to Ken Dixon, who has pretty much erased himself on the internet. All you can find is one picture and a description of him as a Canadian entrepreneur.
Well, sounds like they're well off. Do they have kids?
She has one daughter and 2 stepchildren. She also practices kung fu and kickboxing. She's a triathlete and a Buddhist.
A lot happened since she was 19.
A lot happened to all of us, right?
Yeah.
Which is why this one quote about how Flashdance changed things for Jennifer Beals kind of redeems my whole terrible interview.
I think my outlook on some things has changed.
Like what?
Like I appreciate the past a lot more.
What past? Your past?
The past. I mean, it's amazing to think that I'm sitting here with you right now, but I have no idea what's going to occur tomorrow, next week, next year. I have no idea how things are going to develop.
Mm-hmm.
And that potential for either destruction or greatness is really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not known. Mm-hmm. And so you have sort of appreciation for the present and the past because they have been and they're stable.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the film mostly has done.
Mm-hmm.
To make me look at time differently and how people evolve.
She's so articulate and insightful. I like her. How can you not like her?
Yes, and after the interview, she did me a solid.
Really?
Yeah, I'd totally forgotten about it. Then, I opened up one of my boxes, and when I pulled out the cassette, I also found a very special letter. Remember the very, very beautiful Jill?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she had gone into the movie business too. So on February 2nd, 1984, I got a typed letter from Jill.
Well, that's an artifact in itself. Before email, we typed letters.
I have the letter right here, by the way, and this is what it says. Dear Michael, I just had to write and say hello because I ran into Jennifer Beals at the Golden Globes, and she said you had interviewed her for People. Isn't life weird? Okay? And then in black ink, she handwrote a little insert that read, she said you were very nice.
There you go. Up till now, I thought Jennifer Beals had good judgment.
Oh, well, it sure meant a lot to me that the very beautiful and also very brilliant Jill heard something nice about me from Jennifer Beals. But Jennifer made one final lapse in judgment. In the last 6 seconds of the interview, before the tape recorder went off, she asked me one more question.
Where are you from?
North of Boston.
Did you like Harvard a lot?
No, she didn't.
Yes, and we can only assume that the discussion went on for another 40 or 50 minutes or years after that.
So you met your goal, you talked all about yourself, but after all that, how did your story turn out?
It was the standard fare. You'd never know what a mess I made of it. For anyone who wants to read it, we'll put the article on our site, throwitoutpodcast.com.
So we should wrap up. But first, what about that cassette tape? Will you throw it out?
Oh, I was afraid you'd get to that. There's a lot of this tape that I didn't share. I gave you only the humiliating parts.
That's really all we want. I mean, are you ever going to sit down in your rocker in your dotage and say, I want to hear what Jennifer Beals said again?
But what about history? What if historians discovered that all copies of Flashdance have been thrown out by careless people, and this is the only remaining commentary on it?
Oh, don't flatter yourself. Jennifer, we love you, but we gotta let you go.
I think the best I can do is this. I won't put it in the save box, but I'll make an undecided box. Take one over here. Here it is. And in case it's worth something and somebody wants this, I'll leave it in the undecided box.
Mike, you're gonna put everything in that undecided box.
No, because next week I believe we're going through our high school literary magazine, and that's something we can toss.
Oh, No, we're saving that.
Well, we'll have to duke that out. In the meantime, thank you so much to Jennifer Beals for being such a nice person to me when I was such a weird 26-year-old and she was such a smart 19-year-old. And thank you to everybody for listening and to our sound editor, Willie Manderville, who is so brilliant, but do not blame him for the Walkman buzz that no one could eliminate. And please remember that you can find memorabilia of various kinds that we've mentioned and others that we haven't mentioned at our website, throwitoutpodcast.com. Our theme song is by the amazing Boots Camp, Jen Ayers, and Don Ralph, leader of the band Life in a Blender. You can find all of their music and more on their website, lifeinablender.net. And we also want to thank all our friends who have supported and guided us along the way. Sally, anything you want to add?
Being's believing.
You're right, being is believing. Anything else?
Cut.
Okay, cut. Bye, Sal.
Bye.
Out here in Nancy's, her big garage. This isn't this isn't a mirage. Decades of stories, memories stacked. There is a redolence of some irrelevant facts. Oh, I couldn't throw it out. I had to scream and shout. It all seems so unjust, but still I know I must. Before I turn to dust, I've got to throw it out. Before I turn to dust, I've got to throw it out. But I couldn't throw it out. I couldn't throw it out. I'll sort through my possessions in these paper sessions. I guess this is what it's about. The poems, cards, and papers, the moldy, musty vapors. I've just got